Hi, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of Metaflow Office Hours. It's a very exciting session today. We have Vladimir from Prolaio today who will be presenting their use case of Metaflow. Vladimir is the head of, he's the data and ML engineering lead at Prolaio, and they do something really cool. I see the description as Prolaio is building software as a medical device platform ingesting real-time data from a variety of wearable devices and healthcare providers. So really interesting use case. Prior to Prolaio, Vladimir was the lead software engineer at Highland, and then he has also worked at companies like Nexio, etc. Vladimir, welcome to Metaflow Office Hours. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Trey. And I wanted to thank as well Savin and Ville, because I talked with them on your site, and they invited me for this meeting, and it's really nice to talk about Metaflow. As you said, I used to work for Nexio, who was like a software open source company. So I always like to give back a little bit to the open source, even if I didn't contribute any pull requests, but maybe later, maybe in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so
Cool.
yeah, so today I'm going to talk about, so it's been like 1 year that I'm working at Prolaio. We are newly seed. We just had our first Series A 6 months ago. And
Nice.
so today I'm going to talk about the mission of Prolaio, so basically what we're doing, and then we're going to see the high level of architecture that we are planning to have, and then the one that we end up with. And then I'm going to talk more about the data engineering pure work of Metaflow with Metaflow. And then I'm going to talk more about like on the data science side and how Metaflow is helping us actually to collaborate with the data scientists and how they work with that. And so at the end of the presentation, I will like have a brief look at what we are building right now as an ML platform, and especially highlighting the part from the research to the production, how to ship actually the work of the data scientist in production, how Metaflow is helping us. And at the end, I will summarize everything that we love about Metaflow, but also a little wish list that we would be glad to have.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, the mission of Prolaio, it's so basically it's a healthcare company that are really focusing on the heart conditions of patients. The founders are like coming from the healthcare, and basically we are like different people that are coming from different fields, like data science, engineering, but mainly healthcare, with cardiologists and nurses that are working with those patients. And so the mission of Prolaio is actually to monitor the patients more closely than what is happening right now in the healthcare industry. Like most of the cardiologists and nurses like are monitoring those patients very like every month, and very in a little bit in a random way, where we need like to make them wear like some ECG patches or electrocardiogram devices that are really tough to wear for a long time. And with the advance of all the wearables that we're having on the market now, we wanted like to leverage the data from those devices are already existing. So we are not manufacturing anything. We are having partnership with those manufacturers. And our goal is really to leverage those data in order to monitor more closely all those patients. So for this, we have created a software as a medical device platform, which basically ingests all those data from all those devices. And then we're creating some key metrics, like in order to give insights to the patients and to the clinicians, so the cardiologists or the nurses, in order to have a better comprehension of the health state of their patients. It would be like, and so we're providing as well like mobile app and web app, those portals for those physicians. And so the goal is also like to, so we are like monitoring the health, but it's also like to handle the readmissions. So readmission in hospitals is kind of like a very big deal in US. Most of the patients, either they need to go back to the hospital very, very quick, or they can wait. And actually right now the readmission are kind of like automatic every month, every 2 weeks, and it's very tiresome for the patients, especially if they are not at risk. And so we are attacking on two sides, like the fact of like trying to limit the readmission for the people that are like okay, and trying to make it quicker for the people that needs care and attention. And so my role in this company is, so I'm working with 5 other engineers, and our goal is like to create all those pipeline and data lake and analytics for the data scientists, but also for those applications. And the other thing that we're taking care of is also like the part of human in the loop, so what we call active learning, where basically our cardiologists and nurses can monitor manually and label manually some abnormalities that we could find from some devices, and just to validate or change the outcome, the detection of those heart conditions. And so we can get a feedback of human beings, and like actually we put that in our data lake for the training of our models, or like getting other analytics. And
So this is
yeah,
awesome. I have a quick question if you're okay with this. So there are devices that are already there in hospitals. These devices are getting used for kind of sort of monitoring heart related conditions, heart diseases and related whatever metrics, I guess, numbers, images, whatever. That's the data that the medical device manufacturers are kind
so
of sort of putting into your data lake, or how does it work?
we're kind of like agnostic on this, trying like to be
See.
adapted to all kind of ECG devices. You have some ECG patches that are with 2
Yeah, yeah,
other with 4, and like it's getting more and more easy to wear them actually.
sure,
But they are like lacking the fact of like analyzing all their data. So what they are like, those manufacturers, their business is really like to sell the patches, the devices, and us, we are like getting
correct.
behind the scene on the data. We have ECG patches, we have scales, we are partner, we are using Withings, for instance. We're having like also like watches, like Samsung watches, and later Apple Watch. There's also like blood pressure cuff, temperature
See.
devices, those kind of things. The thing that we're missing is actually all the data are coming from the institution. So we have also like some partnership with other aggregates company that are like actually taking the data from the hospitals or from the patient with their acknowledgement. And so we could get as well like the blood test results, those kind of things.
Sure.
And it's actually
I
here,
see.
so you have like really sensors,
Oh.
but you have also like some sources that are like more like the patient history in terms of medicines, or any type of history that the patient could have, and the prescription, those kind of things. And so yeah. And so for the logical architecture, how we build that, a really high level thing. So really you have this big brick of ingestion where we're formatting the data. We need to de-identify as well the data, like for the research purpose, we cannot play with personal information of people. So we are like de-identifying all of this. And then after, we have those automatic analytics that have been shipped, and we can also review and validate some data automatically or manually. And we have the data are coming also in our data science environment that is really just for research purpose. And then those 2 bricks on the right are more like the portals, and like the data have been validated and presented to the clinicians and patients. And so to go a little bit further and technically, so we have started with AWS, and with AWS, we ended up with like a first data lake that we're serving. So we have so all the data from the ingestion are coming from here. We're having this kind of data swamp where we're having all the raw data. And then after, we are parsing, we are formatting, and we are putting that inside of a big bucket that is going to be our main data lake. Depending, it's multi-tenant, but we have one bucket that is being crawled by Athena, or by Glue and Athena, or by Redshift Spectrum. And so and then after, we have the identification, etc. We have like another data lake for the research purpose. But all those jobs, so when we are parsing, when we're transforming, where we are running analytics, when we are like ingesting feeding the internal review application, for instance, of our data, we were using AWS batch job, basically. And it's true that at some point, it was not like scaling in a way that we wanted to have. It's kind of, we had like the CDK stack in order to deploy all our stuff in AWS. And it's true that you need always like kind of a DevOps action in order like to set up new things. CDK is kind of cool for developers because you can actually dive into it, but you need also like the approval of DevOps team. And also we wanted like to play more with workflows because we wanted to decouple different actions. Like for instance, in the analytics, we wanted to run something in parallel or in bulk. The same for the ingestion of the internal review app. So we needed to have workflows at some point. And so we were looking into step function, for instance. We were not in Kubernetes yet. So we were like, okay, we're going to use because we wanted to make it simple first. And so step function was cool, but kind of like you need to do the definition of the step function or those kind of things. And so we were looking at Airflow, Metaflow, MLflow, and we ended up by falling a bit in love with the dev experience in all cases of Metaflow. Show that the way that it's like being architect, like the API of Metaflow is kind of very, very fluent, very nice and easy to learn right away for a Python developer. And also the way that we installed it, the pace, the way that we installed it was so fast on step function that it was very easy to actually having a first POC and being glad about it. So basically we replaced everything by Metaflow. So we have different workflows, like it's really like the first workflows is set up. Now we have more stuff about integration tests, those kind of things, but we ended up at everything that was like basically manual, like all those scripts that were manual, that were like custom code, we replaced everything by Metaflow flows. And so, so on the engineering data part, we were like really replacing everything. We were really glad as Python developers to have this. We didn't replace like all the built-in filters. For instance, in AWS, you're having like those glue filters that are like removing the identification information. So we can keep this. It's not like a big deal. And actually we're migrating right now in GCP. So we're having also BigQuery. There is like some features in BigQuery to obfuscate personal information. And at last, on the engineering side, we are using now Metaflow for even our integration test, meaning that when we want to create a mock of our data lake, and we are using as well Iceberg to time travel into the different snapshot of our data. And so we're running all of those tests thanks to Metaflow because there is some parallelization and some bulk execution are very interesting with it. And it's very easy to dev on this. So that was for the part of data engineering. And then we were like super glad to use it. So we were like, okay, we need now to work with our data scientists. So the data scientists are mostly working in their Jupyter notebook or in Python directly, I mean, in scripts directly. And we had this first, as we are newly seed and we were like recruiting data scientists, our goal was really first the collaboration. It's like when you have like, I don't say it's like in most companies, but it's true that in my experience, it was always like kind of a little bottleneck. It's that data scientists tend to be like in a little silo and not being like all together with the DevOps and the dev team. And so as we had exactly a little bit the same, like 15 years ago, I would say, like between the DevOps and the dev, the tooling helped, the processes like agility, agile methods, those kind of things helped to collaborate between the dev and DevOps, but also the tooling. Like I think about CDK, for instance, which is very easy for me to dive into it right away in TypeScript and provision some infrastructure, you know, on AWS or even for GCP with Go CDK. So the tooling and the processes, human process, like can be really helpful to actually include the data science team inside of our workflow and CI/CD processes. And so we saw that with Metaflow, we could have a common tool actually to use all together and having a platform where actually we could gather all the jobs inside of the send monitoring, but also being able to review the work of each other. So definitely, I stole this diagram from Outer Van's website, but it's really accurate. It's like the goal was really like to define some process saying, okay, you can work on the Jupyter notebook first and then like trying to refactor your Jupyter notebook with like some libraries, custom libraries in Python. And then after wrapping this up inside of Metaflow, and then after we can collaborate between the engineering and the data science team in order to make it scalable, like basically describing better steps in the Metaflow flow. And then, of course, versioning, because Metaflow is really strong for versioning.
Yes.
And pushing all of this in production. So it's true that for data scientists, depending on their levels of coding, it's not like very easy to step into those kind of framework, but some of them are already using it. And so we ended up by like having this small workflow that is like saying, okay, you can work in Google Colab, for instance, or SageMaker, and then after we can refactor all together, or you can do it yourself. But basically, we were like trying to define roles and responsibility for both teams. And then after, either the engineering team was wrapping up everything Metaflow, either we were like doing that jointly, with the team. And so what we're building right now, besides, we're having this ML platform that is being constructed right now, where basically we would love like to train and evaluate models automatically, and then after automatically as well, like trying to version them. Like if you're having, for instance, some models that are going to have some accuracy that are like higher than 90%, we could actually flag them and like pushing them inside of our model registry. So we are thinking about those kind of things. And of course, like even for the inference, for the serving part of the models, there are some solutions in SageMaker or now in GCP with Vertex, but it's true that the way of introspecting all those versions of flows can be very easy for us, like to actually do the serving via Metaflow flow as well. So we are thinking about those different parts. It's really like a high level logical architecture, but and so as you can see, we have just fusion with a merge with another company that we are bought. And so the infrastructure were on GCP. We were like doing some identification of all the requirements. And so now we have migrated everything on GCP. And this is the other part. What was really cool with Metaflow is that as it's cloud agnostic, it has been pretty fast and easy, like to migrate from AWS Step function to Argo workflow and on the top of Kubernetes GK. And the only thing that we will need to change is how to read from the data warehouse BigQuery from Hive, all those data, and also like interacting with the other components that we were using in AWS and having the equivalent in GCP. So it has been also like really a workforce time gain actually to migrate, and we are happy that we chose Metaflow for this, because we definitely didn't lose any work on that by doing this. The only thing about the hesitation is more about the model registry. So it's true that we don't have like the model registry UI as we would have for MLflow or Vertex or SageMaker, but that's one of the little detail. But basically, we would love like to flag all our version and to do the CI/CD basically with Metaflow. So more like high level again, the data science job. So in terms of functional things, so every week we are like running some daily and weekly analytics on patients where we are like ingesting their data. For instance, they're going to wear the patches and all the other devices for, let's say, 1 month. And we're going to ingest all our data and we're going to run some analytics on top of it. So we have some statistics that are being like generated, but we have also like a CNN model and a support vector model as well that are like detecting AF burden. So it's like atrial fibrillation. This is basically what you're having on your Apple Watch. So we have our custom algorithm, FDA approved, and so we're running that on our platform. And we have like also what they call like a tertiary generation. It's more like a report that we need to give to the clinician that are mixing across all health vitals. We can generate all of this, and this we're doing that with Metaflow. There is so many like use cases that we're using with Metaflow. And in terms of metrics, so we are still a small company. We're still having our first customer like soon. We have like just like few 20 max automatic jobs per day in production. But the thing is that we are using a lot the data science environment for testing on our cluster there. So definitely Metaflow is running a lot on our side. And in terms of sizing, we're still having we had only 50 gigs of ECG, which is actually a lot for the number of ECGs, but it's only floats. But basically, with the new company that we have merged with, we're going to have terabytes. So we're going to actually experience this amount of a huge amount of data with Metaflow and BigQuery. So we're going to see how it's going to scale all of this. I'm pretty excited about it. And also in terms of metrics as well, I wanted to highlight the fact that really the way of deploying your flow automatically in the cloud and not having this way where you can actually code locally, running your flow locally, and then replicate having exactly the same behavior in the cloud right away by just deploying very quickly with one command on CLI. It's very, very handy. And so we have this, there is less DevOps action or dev action. The data scientists can work on their side and they can have a Metaflow flow that is already ready and cloud ready, I would say. So that's definitely a time gain for everyone. So in order to summarize a little bit all of this, what we love at Metaflow, really on the dev coding part, we have been charmed by the API in general. It's very well elegantly done, and it's nice to have all your the way that you're describing the steps are so fluent compared to other framework. So that's very nice. The collecting errors as well, like the catch annotation, for instance, is very nice to be able to run in parallel or in bulk lots of jobs, and then after not failing those jobs, and then after collecting in the joint step, for instance, all these errors is really nice. And also choosing your resources, your machines with the Kubernetes annotation or resources annotation, being able to have your custom Docker image, and then choosing if you want a CPU or GPU. It's really, really cool. It was very easy to set up on the DevOps part. Everybody loved it. Didn't hear any complaint. The only thing was the Kubernetes setup. It's true that on step function, it was nice to set up directly Cognito. It was easier, I would say, but the Argo workflow, you need to have a little bit some Kubernetes practice in order to set up the Metaflow framework. But at the end, it was kind of fast. And of course, the UI, the monitoring UI is really, it's a good add-on on top of we're having Datadog as a observability tool. But even if you have Datadog with the plugin of Kubernetes, you can be kind of lost sometime in those dashboards. And so it's nice to have a concise way to see all your jobs right away and to be able to debug them. And also for the data science part, which was really, really powerful, is also creating those cards where you can actually see the charts and some, tables, and being able to maybe monitor in production, having some hints on the problems or the bad accuracy on the model that you could have. So of course the orchestrator capability, the parallel buck, but it's kind of the same for the others. The versioning models part, I haven't seen that in other frameworks, but I'm pretty sure that I missed something. But it was so easy to use right away that I really love it, and that's really important for us, to have being able to treat our training and evaluation model in a way that we can reproduce the training with the good data set and the good artifacts. So it's really cool for this. And as I said, the cloud diagnostic, we are living proof that that we can migrate very easily from AWS to GCP with Metaflow. So that was really nice for this. And at last, to finish, we have our little wish list. So I talked about the model registry. It's true that it would be nice to have a UI, a small UI, simple UI to see our models. It's not really mandatory, but it's nice for the data scientist, for instance. Me, I could use CLI, it would be okay, but it's true that having a UI would be great. I like also the calendar in Airflow, so it's nice to see all the schedule of the jobs. I think you can have it actually in Datadog with Kubernetes, but that could be cool to have this on the UI. More into the collaboration of the data scientists, having a plugin like Kale for Kubeflow, having a way. And I think it's something to invent actually, because Kale doesn't address all the things, but having a way to integrate more the data scientists inside of Metaflow would be great, especially for those who are working all the time in Jupyter notebooks, would be super cool. On the dev part, I would love to, on my side, to have a way of not running a Minikube locally and having Kubernetes annotation that is being disabled when I'm actually running locally my flows. That would be awesome, or finding a way to do this. And I know that you did the PyPy support really recently, but having poetry would be cool as well, a little poetry annotation. Having a post step would be nice. Having a way, like in step function, you can stop your workflow and waiting for manual approval. I know there is workarounds, but it would be nice. A developer told me that he would love to actually customize just a loop step. So if we have like several loop steps inside of our workflow, to be able like to say, okay, I want to have max threads, max Docker containers for each loop. It's really details, I would say. And at last I had like this other feedback that is kind of cool, but it's like having this like mage, we pronounce that, but basically having this kind of studio like where you could very easily in low code, like let's say having the in and out for the data scientist, like fetching, for instance, data from Databricks right away. Would be cool, and having a key store. But basically, like really, most importantly for me, it was more a model registry UI and more like easy stuff, smooth stuff, like to work in local while having the Kubernetes annotation and poetry support. But that's it. I would say like it's already very easy to use it. We are waiting. We're very excited to see what is going to happen when we're going to have like this huge amount of data are going to transit, and also like seeing this whole ML platform with the versioning and see how we can ship very quickly in production all the work that's been done on the data science side. So I hope I was not too long. I'm sorry.
No. This is great. This is great. You can go on. This is fine.
But I'm done.
Oh,
so
this has been incredible. This is incredible. I love the kind of sort of the breadth and the depth at which you went in about all the different types of use cases, and then specifically, what are things that happen in every use case and so on. I have a question. If you
so many examples, but basically, as you can see, we're really using it. We are using like really recently. It's one of my colleagues did like some wide data profile. That was nice. Having all the data quality of it was really cool to have this for the. So we're having those kind of things and other like different. But yeah,
nice.
we are still like building our platform, so maybe in 1 year we will have much more examples, like much detail.
Absolutely. No, and once you have the bigger platform, let's do this again, where you can kind of sort of share the, what are the things that worked again, and what are the things that, could have been improved and stuff like that. I think Utkarsh has a question. Utkarsh, go ahead. Oh, I see. Oh, he said he has an amazing time listening to the presentation. Yes, of course.
Thank you so much.
I have a few questions, Vladimir, if it's okay. So one is like you said you started off on AWS Step Functions. So you started with Metaflow and Step Functions, and then later moved to GKE, I believe, with Kubernetes. What prompted that transition? Was it something in the way the platform was built?
Also, as I said, we have merged with a company that is having another tool on the GCP, and then after it was more like business discussion, basically, which is happening all the time. But yes, the way that we installed it on Step Function was via. Actually, we didn't use CDK code because we were using the version 2. And there were not like any plugin, any libraries for Metaflow in version 2. But what we use is actually the cloud template, the CloudFormation template that you're having in Outer Bands. So we just like injected some values from the TypeScript CDK, and it was very easy to set up. And now we are using Terraform for CDK for Terraform, sorry, that is actually taking the Helm chart and building like the Helm chart for Kubernetes. Yeah.
Got it. So is the setup exactly like functionally the same? So even on GKE, you have the Metaflow metadata service, you have the Metaflow UI running on Kubernetes, and like previously you had them running on, I guess, regular EC2 instances. Is that how
Fargate.
it was?
So
Oh,
it
on
was
Fargate. Okay.
Target for the UI, Metaflow UI server.
Sure, sure.
We wanted to try Google Workflow, which is the equivalent of step function, but as I asked in your Slack, like there were not like
Yeah.
any things
Yeah.
for this, but frankly, Kubernetes is working great. We have no issue.
Yeah, I see. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
And you said this setup on GKE will be used for at some point, maybe, processing terabytes of data, running multiple flows.
Yeah.
Um,
That's going to be our job orchestrator for everything. The only part where we are
got it.
like hesitating is more about like the serving. So like when you're versioning your models, maybe we want to interact with Vertex AI, for instance,
Sure.
and having endpoints defined there. But I
I
would, I
see.
would, I would tend like more like to like I was even hesitating like to do a small UI by introspecting Metaflow and using the REST API, but I don't know. It's going to be a discussion between the data scientist and the engineering. But for
So,
now, this is the only part where we're not sure what we're going to do about it. But for sure, all the jobs, all the automatic training, the analytics, the ETL
mhm,
jobs, for now we are
mhm.
using it. Yeah.
I see. And when you say serving, like what kind of serving is this? Like, do you expect the model to be behind like some REST API server, and then you kind of sort of have other services call into this? Or is it serving for like another batch job that does that given a model, it runs a batch job, reads data from somewhere, passes it to the model, gets predictions, writes it back to like to a database or whatever, S3 bucket or something like that.
So I'm not sure what is applied in the product roadmap, but definitely we're going to have
I
at
see.
least for our internal detection, we're going to have a
Mm-hmm.
REST API that is going to, call
Got it.
the model and predict some stuff.
Got it.
But we have also REST API that is public, so maybe it could be part of the roadmap. I'm not sure, but in all cases, yeah, we would put like behind a REST API this model serving.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. Yes, and I do have some thoughts about kind of some of the wish list that you had. There are some ways, especially like for Kubernetes, like one of the ways to do this is to use at resources as the decorator, and then you can use with Kubernetes on the command line. So then on the command line, you choose when you want to do the with Kubernetes or not, and then if you just have at resources, then you can run it locally without any trouble. You'll just run locally, and then. But anyway, I'll share some of those
Awesome.
things,
Thank
and
you
of
so much.
course,
No, this is cool.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, no, and
I really, I was doing that on top of my head, so I'm like, I'm gonna know that. Thank you.
try it out, and few other things that you have in there. I'll see if I can get Utkarsh and few others from like who have more experience with Metaflow to see if there are like solutions right now in terms of kind of like I love the idea of the calendar. Actually, your point is very valid. That seeing a calendar where, let's say, if there is something that's scheduled every week, then having it on the calendar, it says it ran and then it's scheduled to run on, let's say, this Saturday, this Saturday, this Saturday, and then that's actually that's a very good
Yeah, it's
feature to
nice.
have. It will be very used.
You can see also like like in Airflow, you can see like the past steps as well. So like you can see like some kind of a grid where you have like red,
Yeah,
square,
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah,
It's kind of cool like for also like really seeing what is happening like during the day, and like depending on your time zone as well, like you might want to look
right.
into something. So it's more, I mean, it's kind of gadget, but it's cool to have this observability, especially when Datadog cannot provide those kind of things. Or yeah,
Fair, fair, fair.
I mean,
Cool.
I'm not sure.
No, this was
Mm.
no. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm good. Mm.
Cool. Yeah, I think those are the main questions I had. This has been fantastic. If and of course, as always, I think you're already on Ask Metaflow, so feel free to ask any questions that you have. All of us are there. You've already kind of sort of interacted with Savin, Vilay, and few others. So most of us who are deeply involved with Metaflow are on those Slack channels and many others. So you'll always get answers. If there is anything else you need to kind of sort of ask, feel free to just ping us there.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vladimir. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
See you guys. Thanks.